Happy Wednesday, boot campers. Welcome to another edition of This Week in Boot Camp. This is Jeremy. So we're getting hot and heavy into character animation now. We're starting to do some fun actions with our characters. Get some tweening and everything going, and making these guys move around a lot. You guys are doing an awesome job so far with everything. I hope you guys are enjoying the course so far. Looks like you are, because I'm enjoying seeing all these fun jumps and everything we're doing this week. So without further ado, let's dive into a couple examples and talk about a few things. Let's start with Alton's jump here. Let's put it on a loop so you can watch it a few times. Got a nice, smooth, solid jump. A couple of things I'll go over today. Just want to show some different examples. Different, timing and weight to the character. Because mainly with something like this, and anything that we talk about throughout the course, is that there's really not necessarily like a set right and wrong to do anything. Every jump doesn't have to look exactly the same. Because we wanted to show you guys the fundamentals of stuff, and we want you to take that basic knowledge and take it and run with it. And the idea is to, project a personality and a weight and a body type on the character that you want to do. So in the case of a jump, that's a perfect example where, you want to, ahead of time, you want to decide, how heavy this character is. Maybe, Stretch here is a pretty big body, pretty long, stretched out body. So maybe he's kind of a heavy character. Or even though he has a big body, maybe he's full of, a bunch of hot air or something. And he has a lighter body than what he looks like maybe. But those are all the decisions you guys need to make ahead of time before you animate your character. Like I said, so there's no right or wrong way to do a jump. You can make a jump a little more floaty, or you can come down a lot faster with like a shorter jump, or you can make a jump really high. There's a million different ways you can make your character jump, and it's all about making that decision ahead of time. To put that personality and that body type on your character to do what you want to do. It all comes back, you want to do the same fundamentals that we're teaching you for, anticipation, takeoff, extension, landing, and all that kind of stuff applies no matter what type of character you do. But once you get those basic principles down, experiment with all different types of timings and all that kind of stuff to really give your character the personality that you want your character to have. So anyway, this one I like a lot. He has a little bit of a floaty feel to him. In the air, he kind of has some good hang time here, which is cool. Stretch here has a nice flow to him. Clearly he's an athlete, so he can jump up and down like this without any effort, it looks like. So that's very cool. All the basic principles are here with the anticipation, building up his energy, pushing off on the toes, making sure the feet are nice and stable, extension, takeoff, landing, extend the legs again, come down on the heels, get those feet down to catch his weight, powers into that squat, and then lands. So very solid. Excellent work. Next, we'll take a look at Arno's. Another great example of a jump here. And we can see a little slightly different timing on this one. He has even more hang time up in the air. As you can see, Stretch kind of jumps up, kind of hangs a little bit, does a little Michael Jordan hang in the air, and then comes crashing down. So there's, a little bit even more hang time there, which is totally cool. But what really sells it has a nice little bit of a body wobble when he's in the air. So he's not like completely just like frozen up there or anything, but he's still like, he kind of gives off that feeling like he's trying to push himself as high as he can, and then that kind of causes his body to wobble a little bit. Looks like when he reaches the apex here, he's trying to get a couple more inches out of the height that he can here, but gravity just brings him straight down no matter what he does. But so this is a good example of a slightly different timing, slightly different hang time. So it has a slightly different feeling to it, but still a very solid jump overall. Has all the basic things we talked about, anticipation and takeoff. One thing to watch out for is these little wobbly feet. If you notice, like the right foot kind of shifts a little bit, so you want to make sure those feet stay locked down while the feet are in contact with the floor. Little small thing. You can lock those toes down with a hold keyframe. It usually works to do that. But overall, this is a very, very solid jump. Excellent work. Let's take a look at Joanna's next. And here we have another slightly different example here. Joanna went with a little more open pose, like a little more athletic pose in the air, which is really cool. Like I said, even slight differences like that, really makes this jump different and unique. He really spreads his arms and legs out here. Like I said, it makes it feel a little bit more athletic, like he's really putting a lot of effort into it. He's kicking those legs up and wide. So a little subtle difference there, but gives this jump a different feel to it, different look to it. But again, we have those basic fundamentals all accounted for here. The push-off, extension. And like I said, he kicks those feet off. Nice hang time. Extension and landing here. Again, on a landing, watch out for those little wobbly feet. A lot of that can be like an interpolation issue with the keyframe sometimes. The keyframes might say that they're, all zeros, but sometimes you just have to take a peek into the graph editor and you might see it should be a straight line on the position, but sometimes the interpolation gets a little wonky in between those keyframes, and you might see the line on the graph editor maybe kind of like curves up a little bit. So you can fix that in the graph editor, or you can just lock those down with a whole keyframe. Once the feet hit the ground right here, you can just lock those down because they shouldn't move anymore after that. So a couple different ways you can correct that. It's hard to see in real time, but if you scrub through those things, it can kind of be noticeable. So it's always best to take care of those little nitpicky things sometimes, just to make sure your character is as locked in as possible. But this is an awesome jump. Like I said, I love this pose here midair. Really changes up the jump. It gives it a nice feel to it. Excellent job. Next, we'll take a look at Michael's. And here's a good example of one that's even more floaty than the previous examples we just looked at. But again, that's not a bad thing. Nothing wrong with that. Just gives Stretch a little different feel to it. Like I said, maybe this guy is a little bit lighter. Maybe his weight isn't as dense as a couple of the other examples we saw, so he can kind of hang in the air a little bit longer. But I love the anticipation on this guy. He kind of squats down. You can really see him kind of building up that energy. Kind of has a little bit of a continuous movement as he's, squatting down and squashing down a little bit before he springs upward into his jump. But this has a really nice softness to it. But like I said, nothing wrong with that. Just a completely different feeling to the jump, which is really cool. So I like this one a lot. Again, all the fundamentals are there. Feet are nice and locked down on the push off. It just has a little bit more floaty feeling to it, but it comes down nicely. So that's excellent example. And finally, we'll take a look at Priyanks. So I wanted to show this one because in this case, this jump is a lot more forceful, a little quicker, not as floaty in the air. So this is a great example of how you can change up your jump just with a couple of small timing adjustments there. It's very similar to the other jumps, the same basic type of form. You got the basic casual jump going here, but there's a slight different timing to this one, so it gives the character. So in this case, stretch feels a lot heavier than, say, what we just looked at with Michael's. This guy feels a little heavier because he doesn't stay up in the air as long, and he comes, descending down to the ground a little faster, and he really powers down into that landing squat. So this has a completely different weight to it, but again, totally cool. Two different type of jumps, but they're both excellent, and they both work very well, and they both speak to different body types that each animator gave to their characters, which is what you want to do, is what you want to think about. Establish that type of stuff before you start tweening. Figure out what type of character you have, and what type of body he has, and how much weight he has, and let that inform your animation. So this is, again, like I said, this is a nice casual basic jump, but because the timing is slightly different in the air and on the landing, it just gives that character a completely different feel to it, but it still works very well. So great job, everybody. I love these jumps. A lot of great stuff coming through. Keep working hard. Keep working on those jumps. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do next week.